Hey, everybody. So you're probably hearing right now about the way Senator Alex Padilla was just treated today at a Kristi Noem press conference. And I'm going to show the video in a minute, and I'm going to talk about it. And I've got to admit, I'm really angry right now. And that's kind of ironic because I just finished editing a video that I was going to post tonight, but I'm probably going to post that one tomorrow now. And the thumbnail for that video says, "Reject the Rage Machine." And here I am a little bit enraged. So I just want to say this first very clearly. I am angry, and I think we all should be angry when we see things like this, but I'm not even a tiny bit afraid. Not a tiny bit. I'm kind of furious, but I'm not afraid because we're winning. Truth is winning. And it might be hard to see that right now, but mark my words, Kristi Noem can't handle the truth. I doubt she can handle a multi-syllabic question most days, but she can't handle the truth. So she has to have these specially curated events where she can ooze her lies and propaganda and play her dark Christian terminatrix role. But America is not buying her act. Things are going to get worse in America, yes, before they get better. I think that's probably true. But truth is winning. And when you start manhandling a United States senator to keep him from asking uncomfortable questions, that just shows that you're losing. You know, the reason I make videos, the reason I write books, is because I actually think that what I do here matters. If I thought that the future of this country is that we're going to be permanently run by moral degenerate nitwits like Kristi Noem and Donald Trump, I'd probably start trying to find a way to accept that reality and maybe start a hobby farm and live out the rest of my years just trying to ignore all of this. But this is not our future. These people are not going to win. So here's what I'm going to suggest. If you're not in the same headspace as me right now, if you do worry a lot when you watch a United States senator get dragged out of a press conference and handcuffed, then I'd say don't watch. Like, none of us have to watch things that make us fearful. But long term, I don't think that this should make anyone afraid. These are just the ridiculous things that people do when they're losing an argument. And we do still have the vote, and we do still have freedom of speech. And these Keystone cops are not strong enough, and they're not smart enough to take those things away from us in just a few years. It's not going to happen. And this sort of thing works against them. So let's watch this, and then we'll talk about it.
Exaggerate and embellishing. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
I also want to
hands up.
specifically how many of our ICE agents have been docked.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead, put behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here. I did not know. There's no recording allowed out here per FBI rights for the building. So what, I'm sorry? There's no recording allowed out here. That's my boss. I have to. There's no recording allowed out here. You can record it. There's no recording allowed out here.
Okay, so what did we just watch? A United States senator from California was in a federal building, a building he has every right to enter, at a press conference, a public event, and he was louder than they liked. So they dragged him out, put him on the ground, and handcuffed him. And yeah, the right wing is already defending that stuff, saying that he was out of line and that it's about time someone put these politicians in their place. And that's just ridiculous. If that seems like a reasonable response, then what I think that is, if you think that's reasonable, I think what that is it's evidence of how deep this, what I've been calling this perverted law and order view of justice goes in our culture. And Christians especially are susceptible to excusing this kind of treatment of somebody who dares to step out of line a little bit. We're taught from a young age in a lot of churches that obedience is one of the highest virtues. And we're taught above all to respect authority, no matter what. And then we're surprised when we hear about people being abused in every possible way by leaders in the church. So the fact is, U.S. senators have oversight over these thugs that are dressing up and parading around right now in their military gear, trying to frighten immigrants and anyone else who stands up for the immigrants. And please don't try to tell me it's just about illegal immigrants. You're buying the line if you think that that's what this is about. They're mistreating refugees also. They're blocking most of them from coming into the country. Charlie Kirk tweeted about the need to restrict all immigration from what he calls the third world. So don't fall for this migrant crime narrative and this we only mistreat illegals narrative, which is sick in and of itself. These policies of Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and the rest, they are sick. And they're based on their fears of the browning of America. That's what this is about. We all know this is true. Some of them even say it out loud. Mostly, though, they try to control the narrative, and they speak in only the most friendly confines. So when the Senate and the House bring them in for oversight, somebody like Kristi Noem, or we saw this with Pete Hegseth the other day, they stall and they deflect, and sometimes they outright lie. And right now, since both of those chambers are controlled temporarily by Republicans, the committees allow them to get away with this sort of thing. So a United States Senator from California, where all this stuff is happening right now, dares to come in and ask a question in the only real forum that's been allowed him, and he gets hauled out and wrestled to the ground. And they're going to convince their followers that this is law and order. You know, this aforementioned despicable Charlie Kirk, the one who says he doesn't want people from third world countries coming here, wrote this today. Whoa, a sitting U.S. Senator, Alex Padilla, was just shoved and forcibly removed from a press conference with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Reports are he's been arrested. No one is above the law. It's about time these Democrats stopped acting like they are. This is the game they're playing, folks. They refuse to tell the truth. They refuse to take questions in legitimate forums, and they make people who try to be assertive enough to ask questions look like criminals. That's not justice. That's law and order. So are we seeing the difference? Are we seeing how this plays out? The part that bugged me the most personally, and this is a little bit of a personal quirk that I have. I've always really had trouble with very weak people who are given a tiny little bit of power, and then they think that power is, it gives them the right to do, they'll push that power to the max. So the part of this video that just bugged me the most was when the guy blocked the senator's staff member from filming. There's no recording allowed out here. There's no recording allowed out here. Just this mindless, calm, because he's got the power temporarily. But don't let the calmness fool you. That's thuggish behavior. That's protecting a law and order regime from accountability. So the video I was going to release tonight was part 2 of my 3-part series on my chapter that I wrote in 2020 about the Black Lives Matter protests that were going on that summer, and a lot of theological reflections on that, and a lot about the law and order thing. And the section for tonight, the thing that was going to be released tonight, which I'll release tomorrow, was me talking through what happened to George Floyd in my town. And my whole message in that video is how demagogues fuel rage intentionally, so they can use our rage to justify their brutal actions. But one of the things that happened in that George Floyd video was that one of the cops stood guard and held the crowd at bay. And he had this very calm look on his face for the most part while that atrocity was taking place. In order for injustice to happen, thousands of people have to be like that. Thousands of people have to adopt that stance where they stay calm, cool, and collected because they hold a little bit of power temporarily. And they just quietly stop people who are trying to work for justice. There's no recording allowed here. There's no recording allowed here. Well, the recording happened and we saw it. And I know that the people who are going to leave your comments under this video to tell me I'm overreacting. I know you're going to do it. Kristi Noem's goons, you're going to say, have the right to keep a United States senator from asking questions in an uncomfortable manner. He was out of line. So go ahead. I appreciate you watching my channel. And I do want you to know, though, that you're losing. And today, your movement took another big step towards losing. Yeah, you can surround yourself with Fox News friends who convince you that you're not seeing what you're seeing. And maybe they play into your underdeveloped sense of justice and your overdeveloped sense of racial pride, maybe, I don't know. But that's not the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans made a mistake in November by not showing up in force to vote against this madness. They didn't think it would really be like this. And they're not going to make that mistake again. The majority of Americans look at Kristi Noem, and my apologies, I have to tell the truth. I think they look at her and they see an imbecile with a big gun and a little bit of power. And they don't like imbeciles with guns and power. And they're going to take all of that away in the next 2 election cycles. These sorts of thuggish moves are bad enough. But the majority of Americans are waking up and noticing how these unqualified and embarrassing supposed leaders of our federal agencies are overstepping their bounds and how they're playing the American people for fools in the way that they talk about their justifications for these things. And sure, a sizable number of people want to be fooled if it helps them justify their bigotries and their lust for a little bit of power over their own neighbors, but that's not most Americans. Donald Trump and Kristi Noem and Tom Homan and Charlie Kirk and all the rest looked a little bit more powerful today when this happened, when they did this to a United States senator and were able to make a mockery of him to their fans. But they took a large step towards their ultimate irrelevance to the future of the United States of America. This is not our future. The way that these people are acting is not our future. Yeah, we are in for rough waters ahead. We can't deny that. That's true. But these people are not our future. So let's keep our heads up and let's just keep documenting their actions and organizing. And when we get the chance, let's vote them out once and for all. And thanks for listening.